In this video, I'm going to share 3 critical mistakes that people make on their spiritual journey. Now, I'm not going to bore you with an introduction full of fluff. We are going to get straight into it, starting with number 1, and that is spiritual bypassing. So spiritual bypassing is the tendency to use spiritual beliefs, practices, or language to avoid dealing with difficult emotions, psychological wounds, or unresolved personal issues. So basically what spiritual bypassing is, in simple terms, is it's avoiding the work. What I mean by the work is I'm talking about like inner work, shadow work, healing. And so what spiritual bypassing is where like people will have this spiritual awakening and they may learn about like raising vibration. And so they start using like, different spiritual practices like meditation or yoga or breath work, things like that, to raise their vibration, to bring them up, to get them into a positive state. But they don't do their healing work. They don't do the inner work. They avoid it. And the problem with that is we all have unresolved wounds and trauma. We all have suppressed emotions in the body. So we basically all have this baggage. And that baggage is what keeps you in these negative low frequencies. So if you've got people that have all this baggage that they're not dealing with, and they use practices to raise vibration, to bring themselves up, that baggage that they're not dealing with is always going to bring them back down. And so the key to transformation, to raising vibration, to leveling up is doing the work. Doing your inner work, doing your shadow work, healing your wounds and traumas, clearing out the baggage, clearing out the suppressed emotions. Because when you do that work, when you start dealing with this stuff and clearing it out, that's when it starts permanently raising your vibration, because you're clearing out the baggage that's keeping you in those negative low frequencies. So again, some people will avoid this work. They don't want to go into it. They don't want to look at it. They just want to use practices to bring them up. And they're always going to come back down. And so this is why shadow work is so important as well. So if you don't know what shadow work is, the shadow self is a psychology term that was coined by Carl Jung. And so we all have a shadow. The shadow is the repressed and rejected parts of our personality. And the shadow is in the unconscious, so we're not aware of it. It's there like playing out in the background and it's causing problems in our life. And the whole purpose of doing shadow work is to become aware of your shadow. So then you can integrate it and become whole. And doing shadow work is about going into your darkness, bringing the darkness into the light, or bringing the unconscious into conscious, into your awareness. And by doing that work, that is what really levels you up as a person, as a being. So don't avoid the work. I want to share an example of this as well. So about 12 weeks ago, I had the most profound awakening of my entire life. And this was orchestrated by the universe. So the universe allowed this sort of awakening to happen on its own. And what it was a scapegoat awakening where I came to the realization that I was the scapegoat in my family. And there was a lot of other realizations as well. Like it wasn't just that. There was, this, like I said, this is the most profound awakening of my life. So I had so many other things like realizations and breakthroughs and things coming into my awareness. And for the first 6 weeks, like I was like very much in my wounds. I could not create a piece of content. I couldn't be in front of the camera. And like, obviously, like I'm creating content, I'm building a business. And when this scapegoat awakening happened, I knew not to spiritually bypass or suppress this. I knew that this is important. I knew that it happened for a reason, and that I basically had to take a step back from business and prioritize inner work, healing, and integration like every day for 6 weeks. I had to fully take a step back from business because I did not want to spiritually bypass this, because I knew that me going into this work, inner work, healing, integrating, this is going to level me up as a person, but it's also going to help my business level up as well. So even though I'm having to take a step back from business and kind of, I've had to put things on hold a bit, and I've been a bit of a ghost on social media apart from YouTube, I know in the bigger picture, or thinking long term, that this is going to serve me. By doing the inner work, this is going to help me have a even more successful business. So don't spiritually bypass, do the work, because that is the key to leveling up. Now we're going to go straight into the second mistake, which is the healing trap. Now the healing trap is the opposite to spiritual bypassing. The healing trap is where you obsess over the work. So some people get a bit too obsessed with doing their inner work and their healing. They seem to think that they've got to dig everything up. They've got to heal everything in order to have transformation. They get obsessed with healing work as if there is some end goal to achieve. Here's the thing about healing. There is never an end goal. You will never be fully healed. And healing is not linear. It is not from point A to point B. Think of healing as a spiral. A spiral that's going upwards, right? So you may work on something and you may think you've healed it and you resolved it and you're good. And then it might come back around and you were like, why is this back again? I thought I healed this. And you may think you're going round and round in circles. No, you are not going round and round in circles. You're spiraling upwards. So that means that, yes, things may cycle back round to your awareness to be looked at again. That's normal. That is part of the healing journey and how it works. However, even if something cycles back around that you thought you already resolved, you are still further ahead than where you originally were. So that's why you think of it as a spiral going upwards. You're always higher than where you originally were. And so it's about having a healthy relationship with the healing journey. Understanding there's no end goal. Understanding you'll never fully be healed. And that it's not, healing's not linear. Things may cycle back around, and being okay with that. And so the problem with getting too obsessed with healing, like if you think I've got to heal everything so I can have transformation, I've got to dig everything up, now I've got to heal this thing over here, I've got to heal this thing next. What happens is you get stuck in a loop of I'm broken and need fixing, I'm broken and I need fixing, and then it reinforces the belief I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough as I am. And that is why you do not want to get obsessed with healing. So the first mistake is avoiding the work. The second mistake is getting obsessed with the work. So you want to find a balance in the middle, right? You have a healthy relationship with the healing journey. You understand that inner work and the healing is important, but you're not obsessed with it. You know you don't have to heal everything in order to experience a great life. You understand it's a journey. And you think of yourself like an onion. I think that's what Shrek said about ogres. Ogres are like onions because they have layers. Humans are the same. We have many layers to us. There's always something else to dig through or dig up, right? So it's about embracing the spiral journey. Knowing that you're always further ahead than where you were, you're always improving, even if things cycle back around, and being okay with it. Not getting sucked into the obsession and reinforcing the belief of I'm not good enough, I'm broken, I need fixing. And so now we're going to go into the third mistake, and that is spiritual ego. Now, the ego can be a tricky thing, and I have noticed a lot of people in the spiritual community falling into the spiritual ego trap. So what happens is people have these spiritual awakenings, and then it's like they allow it to go to their head where they think that they're special because I've woken up. I know things that other people don't know. I'm so amazing and superior. You don't want to fall into that trap because no human is better than another human being, whether you're awake or not. It doesn't matter. No human is better than another human. And honestly, I've been guilty of the spiritual ego too. An example of like the spiritual ego that I was doing was where like you have the awakening and then you try to force the awakening onto other people. Like you may have good intentions, like I know I did. It's like you just want people to wake up and know what you know, but you can't force people to wake up. And you've kind of got to respect the fact that everyone is on their own journey and not everyone is going to wake up in this lifetime. And I saw an analogy for this that I thought was really great. It's like you imagine someone is in bed asleep and you go in there and you start shaking them and telling them to wake up, wake up, wake up. You're not going to get a positive response from that person. They're going to wake up and be like, fuck off, get out of my room. Like, they're not going to be happy with you, you know? So it's the same idea when you're trying to wake someone up spiritually. You're not going to get a positive reaction. You can't force them onto other people. So yes, I was guilty of doing this, but I had good intentions. And like, I see a lot of spiritual ego in you know, spiritual communities as well. And I kind of get a little disappointed because I'm like, man, being spiritual, like you should be more aware of your ego, I feel, but I do work a lot on my own ego, so that's why I've developed a lot of awareness. But for example, I had someone like write a comment to me about like, they were saying something about, oh, I'm so connected to the universe more than you would ever know. And as soon as I read that, I'm like, that's just spiritual ego. I didn't reply to them because I saw it for what it was. I was like, this is very much spiritual ego. Like in their mind, they think that they're really special because they've got a connection to the universe, when realistically, they're not special because every single human being has that ability. And this person doesn't even know me. So how would you know what my spiritual journey is about and what my connection to the universe is like? So that's another example of spiritual ego, like people thinking that they're special and they've got a stronger connection to spirit than everyone else. Don't fall into those traps, man. The ego, like I say, the ego, it can be a very tricky thing. Another thing that I notice in the spiritual community as well that feeds the ego is the whole starseed topic. Like I'm aware about what starseeds are, which you know, this comes from like Dolores Cannon's work. So starseeds are souls that volunteered to come to Earth to help raise the vibration to basically save the planet. So like different alien beings and from other planets have, you know, volunteered to come here. So a lot of people in the community are all like, I'm a starseed. In other words, I'm special. I came here to help the planet. It all feeds the ego. And that's why I don't create content on that topic. I don't talk about starseeds. I don't claim to be one. Even though I'm like, oh yeah, it may be possible I'm a starseed because I'm awake and aware and I'm building this spiritual business. But I don't know, and I don't actually care if I am. Like that label doesn't mean anything to me. Because again, the label feeds the ego. So for me, it's like all I actually care about is helping people raise the vibration, helping the collective consciousness raise, because I understand that that's going to change the planet for the better. That's all I care about. So yes, don't fall into those spiritual ego traps of thinking that you're superior or you're better than the people that haven't had awakenings, or don't fall into that starseed trap of I'm special and I've been sent here to help this planet. Like, don't allow these things to feed ego. The key on the spiritual journey is about sitting down here and operating from the heart, not sitting up here and operating from the ego. It's about learning to make that shift from ego to heart. And when you make that shift, you instantly raise your vibration. So those are the 3 critical mistakes. Let me know if they resonate with you, or if you've also been guilty of these. I've definitely been guilty of them myself. However, I've been on the spiritual journey for 6 years, so I've really, learned to have good balance between, doing the work, but not getting too obsessed, not avoiding it. And I've worked a lot on my ego and working on the whole spiritual ego thing, like trying not to wake other people up and just respecting their journeys as well. So let me know if you've experienced any of these things. If you got value, hit the like button. And if you like this sort of content, like spirituality, raising vibration, doing the inner work and the healing and the shadow work, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell notification. I'm going to leave a follow-up video here if you want to learn more. Thanks for watching. Peace.